almost good.
Okay, I think now we can start. I need to have a confirmation from Nikki that good to go. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this Crypto Valley event on self-custody. So this is a hybrid event, meaning that we have here at Adnovum office in Zurich an audience in person, but we also have people following us everywhere with the Zoom stream. So thank you everybody for coming. It's a pleasure to welcome everybody here at Adnovum and to spend this evening together with the speakers that we have from the Crypto Valley. So this event is organized by the Crypto Valley Association and by the cybersecurity of working group of the association, and Markus will introduce himself and this group and the speakers just after me. And let me allow you to give you a few slides of what is the Crypto Valley Association, because as today it's a free and open event, maybe we don't have only members already. So introduce myself. I have two hats today. I'm the first Crypto Valley hats, Vice President of the Crypto Valley Association, and I'm also doing business development here at Adnovum. And feel free to contact me, follow me on Twitter. So what is the Crypto Valley Association? It's an association, professional association, non-profit, established in 2017. So 5 years ago. We have now more than 1,000 members, including more than 250 corporate member companies, from startup to large corporate. Here are some logos of the most well-known corporate members we have in the Crypto Valley Association. And this is the global map of almost 200 plus companies that are members of the association. So you see, not only in Zug, not only in Switzerland, everywhere on the planet. So we have working groups, 9 working groups, and you see one of them is the Cybersecurity Working Group, which allowed the event tonight. But we also have chapter, regional chapter, like local in Switzerland. We have the Western chapter, which is Western Switzerland, meaning the Romandie, where I'm from. Maybe you can hear from my accent. And we just launched 2 or 3 weeks ago, international chapter. We started with South America chapter, Middle East chapter, and in the coming weeks, we will have the North American chapter, which will be launched. So it's a really global association. Already 35% roughly of our members are abroad Switzerland. We do hybrid events like today, fully virtual events online. We publish papers. By the way, I think the cybersecurity was very productive. You had two papers published by the working group. And of course, the flagship event, we do the Crypto Valley conference once every year in June. Last time we had 700 attendees, and save the date for the next one in 2023 would be June 1st and 2nd. You can join us to connect, learn, network, advocate. It's easy to do it online on cryptovalley.swiss. We have membership for individuals, startups, SME, and corporate. Then here for the in-person audience, you are in the brand new headquarters of Adnovum, and I'm representing the banking and fintech division of Adnovum. So we are a company created in Zurich more than 30 years ago. We have 650 employees. Half of them are here in Switzerland, in Bern, and also in Lausanne, and the others are abroad, either in Europe or in Asia Pacific. We do digital solution, cybersecurity, application cloud, consulting, both for the traditional finance, but also for the digital assets. So you can see that we work on the left of the screen in finance. We work both with retail bank, cantonal bank, and private banks. So these are only the logos that we can display. Obviously, we have a much more. Be careful with the camera. And yeah, some example of project. You maybe some UBS client in the room or online. We have done and we are doing the digital banking solution of UBS, both e-banking and mobile banking. I'm sure some of you use Twint. It's a project that we did from scratch at Adnovum, and now we are very happy to see that this project is very popular. In digital asset, we worked with Crypto Finance on their asset management software. We also work with various other crypto bank based in Zurich. And yeah, last but not least, of course, Adnovum is a proud member, an active member of the Crypto Valley Association. So yeah, there it is for the intro. Now I will hand it to you, Markus. Markus, you had the great idea to organize this event with your working group and active member of your working group. So I will let you introduce and kick off the presentation. Thank you, Markus, and thank you, the working group.
Thanks for the introduction, Jérôme. It's been just about 3 years that we had the first working group live meeting about the Swiss blockchain security. And I was there in a panel speaking about the security of custody solutions. And today, we're again here in Zurich speaking about the security of custody solution. And it's really great to be back in a physical meeting, being able to catch up with people in person. And it's also great that in the 2 years of Corona, we've learned how to have hybrid events. So welcome, audience around the globe. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. As the Crypto Valley Working Group in cybersecurity, we're meeting on a monthly basis to speak about what happened and what's happening in the cybersecurity space in blockchains and DLT solutions. We are practitioners of cybersecurity in that space. We are also practitioners of cybersecurity outside of blockchain who would like to learn about blockchain secure solutions. And we're also welcoming people who are just getting started in security, in blockchain or outside. So very open group. We welcome everybody to join us in our monthly meetings. When you're a member of the Crypto Valley Association, you should receive the invite to our working group meetings in your email. Please make sure to join if these topics are interested to you. Even if you're not an expert today, we welcome an open group, a mixed group of people. You're welcome to join us and listen and learn, as much as contributing to the sharing of information, as well as contributing to the papers and research that we publish. It was just this year that we published 2 papers, and over the history of the Crypto Valley Cybersecurity Working Group, it's a total of 5 papers that we already released, entirely out of the voluntary work of members of the working groups. My name is Markus Perdrizat, and I'm the head of custody at Bitcoin Swiss. You may ask, what is the head of custody doing in a self-custody event? Well, that's how I got started, for one. In 2013, when I bought my first Bitcoin, what options did I have? I downloaded Bitcoin. It wasn't even called Bitcoin Core at that time. I created a wallet. No deterministic seeds at that time yet. And in the meantime, of course, the space has come along. I have joined Bitcoin Swiss in the meantime. But even now, self-custody is very important to me personally, and also very important to us at Bitcoin Swiss. Some would like to be in control of their own assets. Some would like to be their own bank. And that's important. That's what part of makes crypto and blockchain, that you're in control and that you can choose the solution that's right for you. Today, we're focusing on self-custody. We will be giving away a self-custody device, a BitBox, sponsored by Shift Crypto today. And will likely be a quiz at the end to answer a question to figure out who should win the BitBox. So please pay attention. And of course, it's limited to the audience who we have in the room today. What do we have today? It's an Unconference. It's lightning speeches that I announced. So how is this going to work today? Today, the 4 panelists sitting here in sequence are going to step up to the stage and give a lightning speech. About 5 minutes, at most 7 minutes. And if they go longer, I will need to cut them off. So I'll have the clock running and we'll be monitoring the time. So they'll speak fast. They'll go through a lot of content. Hopefully you'll learn something. And then immediately we'll open up the audience for questions. So if you see anything that you'd like to follow up on, that you'd like to dive deeper, or that you'd like to ask the speaker who just went through the lightning speech, that's your opportunity. I'll open up the round for questions, mostly in the room here. Another 5 to 7 minutes. So we'll be bam, bam, bam. We'll go through the speeches, lightning speeches, then have 2, maybe 3 questions. And then we go to the next lightning speech of the next person. At the same time, we're also collecting questions for the online audience, and we'll have time at the end for a few questions from the online audience. So without further ado, let's get started. Jérôme, where is the mic?
Oh.
Let's see if this works.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Let's just see. The first talk today will be about the different types of wallets that we have. It's going to be a short overview, just in case that people don't know what the different types of wallets are. Okay, great. So I will start with paper wallets. This is the most lo-fi version of wallets that maybe all of you have seen before if you've been in crypto more than a couple of years. And it tends to look like this, where it's either a self-generated wallet where you write down the public key, private key, and maybe even the address, and it might or might not have QR codes to use with secondary wallets. And in general, like as I said before, you can generate it yourself in a mostly secure way, for example, with an air-gapped PC and offline. But 90% of people tend to just go to a website which generates a PDF file for them. They download that to their normal PC with internet exposure, and then send it over Wi-Fi to the printer, which is obviously a cybersecurity nightmare. So that's the first kind of wallet that people tend to be exposed to. Now, I noticed in the last, let's say, 24 months that there has been a certain convergence between the term paper wallet as well as the seed phrases. So people tend to refer to their seed phrases, so like the 12 or 24 words that you receive when you set up a wallet, to their paper wallet as well. But there's a difference, obviously, because when you're referring to these seed phrases, those are backups. Those are not actually your paper wallet. But anyway, like they're both paper-based, so I'm just like throwing them in there. So what you need to be careful of when you're handling these paper wallets or paper backups is that they're very, very susceptible to fire and water damage, as well as to fading. Like the writing that you have on paper can fade. There can be termites in your house that destroy them. So it's really important to laminate them with, for example, a fade-proof or a waterproof kind of plastic lamination system. And for additional security, it might make sense for those backup systems with the seed phrases to have an additional passphrase as added security. Then let's move on to the second one. My second least favorite one would be the PC wallet, meaning that you download a piece of software, a wallet to your PC, and you store your keys on your hard drive. You can encrypt them or you cannot encrypt them, doesn't matter. And well, this has a lot of different vulnerabilities because your system is only as secure as your hardware. meaning that if you use your all-purpose computer where you surf the web, this will of course be less secure than if you're using a specialized air-gapped PC. The saving grace there is that you can actually use your hardware wallet in conjunction with all of those PC wallets, adding an additional layer of security, meaning that you never expose your private keys to your PC. Another more famous one recently has been the web-based wallets. These are all the types of wallets that you use your browser in conjunction with. So these might be your MetaMasks, these might be your MyEther wallets, etc. These are easy to use, and in general, you can say that you are in custody, you're in control of your own private keys because they do let you generate your own seed phrases. However, there are certain vulnerabilities with these wallets because you are interfacing with a website and you are trusting them to generate your private keys. So you have no idea about the type of entropy that is behind the systems that are used to generate the private keys. And you also don't know if there's been some kind of leak. Right. Then also another thing really important is that they're super vulnerable to phishing. So a malicious actor might generate a website that looks exactly like the provider and ask you to input, for example, your 12 seed phrases, which you should never do. Mobile apps are similar to PC, but what they have is a secure element, which is essentially an isolated part of your memory, which only that specific app is allowed to use, meaning that you have a certain secure enclave where your app can process certain information or store cryptographic secrets. What you also need to be careful here when you're using mobile wallets is the fact that there can be keyloggers, like for example, all of these nice emoji keywords that you can download. These tend to be quite dangerous because they can log any keystroke that you do. For example, if you're entering your passphrase or your 12 seed words. Then as an additional word of precaution, because people don't really talk about it, is the fact that you should disable all of the background apps when you're actually using these mobile wallets, in order to make sure that there's just one dedicated app that is running at this time when you're using your crypto. Then onto hardware wallets. I mean, Doug will talk a bit more about it, but these are dedicated devices which ensure that the private keys that you have will never leave the device. So essentially, they are like, I have two over there, maybe I can show them later, but so these are dedicated devices that are either used to construct transactions or store your private keys and actually sign your transaction with those private keys. They're really like an additional step in security because they allow you to like offboard all of the physical security and to IT security from each other. Because when you're setting up this wallet, you're being asked to actually record a mnemonic phrase. So the 12 or 24 seed phrases that I was mentioning earlier. You can keep them on paper, while the seed is actually, you don't have to take care of the seed. You can restore it whenever you lose your hardware device. So you're not really like tied to any hardware. The important thing here is that, I mean, Patrick will talk about it a bit more, but we'll have to be really careful about the backups that we make of the 12 words or 24 words. An important thing about this as well is that the security is very much hardware bound. So you have certain additional knacks to increase security. Like for example, you have an additional pin that you can safeguard your device with. And the pin will always shift direction. So no one can actually tell which pin you're entering because the keypads will keep shifting. And some of them, as you can see on the pictures, I don't know if you on location can see it, but some of them have a screen where you can actually demonstrate certain things to the user, and the user can directly interact with the device, meaning that it's no longer necessary for them to actually involve a PC, a keyboard, something else that could be key locked. One thing, however, that I would like to talk about is supply chain risks. So make sure that you're actually sourcing it from a reputable vendor. We have two of them here. Yeah.
All good?
Yes, all good.
All right. Thank you very much. Maria, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Maria Sommerhalder, and I'm a consultant for AWK Group. I used to work together with Markus for PwC, where we were auditing crypto solutions.
All right. Good. Thank you very much. Are there any questions to Maria about wallets? Not right now. Oh yeah, there is one.
Do you have any numbers of distribution? How many users are using these kind of wallets?
So actually, the question is, are there any numbers of users around the distribution between these wallet types?
You would have to ask the wallet providers. Maybe Doug can answer.
Do you
have an answer?
Yeah, so that's state secrets, of course. But if you look at some research, they say there's 200 million active users right now. So that's the broad picture. Of course, that's growing. If you look at hardware wallet manufacturers themselves, I think only Ledger is really talking about it, and Trezor also, where it's in the few millions reported sales. So probably mid millions for hardware wallets, and then tens of millions to hundreds of millions for exchanges, I would say, and maybe the online web wallets.
Yeah, we crossed 5 million per ledger. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Please.
So best practices.
Okay, yeah, I mean, best practices, you're talking, so the gentleman was asking about best practices for wallets, and I assume you're referring to what kind of wallet should you choose? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, okay. It really depends on what your level of knowledge of the technology is, right? Because there's always, as you said, a sweet spot between your own knowledge of the technology as well as like your risk appetite. I mean, certain people might have higher risks than others. So for example, if you're a celebrity, you might be more at risk of being robbed or, you know, SIM swapped. But for us normal people, it's the highest risk is like losing the keys or like forgetting where we stole it. So sorry, where we kept it. Yeah. So I mean, in 90% of cases, I would think that it's sufficient if you have a hardware wallet and you keep 2 backups of your seed phrases, which are the sort of random words according to BIP39 that you get when you set it up. So, you know, use pen and paper, laminated paper, or you might even put it onto steel. Like I've in the first section, in the first column there, I'm talking about metal as well, because not only can you record your seed phrases in paper, but you can also etch it, or like, you know, sometimes you have like these sets where you receive like Scrabble-like letters and you can assemble the seed phrases. So I think that for 90% of people will be sufficient. So just make sure that you have 2 backups in 2 different locations. Tamper-proof. You might actually put them into tamper-proof envelopes or into fireproof safe, something like that. Yeah, I do not recommend paper wallets.
We can take one more question.
Maybe can I, if there's no question, I would like to elaborate on paper wallet maybe, because there's one risk about paper wallets that many people aren't aware of, which is the fact that it's actually a single-use wallet. So when you see that picture there of a paper wallet, you can see that it's a public-private key. But the fact is that if you use like UTXO-based cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, you always need a change address, right? So if you send a certain amount of Bitcoin from one address to the next, you're not just sending, for example, 0.05 Bitcoin, you're sending the entire amount and you're receiving the change back, meaning that whenever you interact, you need a change address, you need an address for the rest of the amount to come back to. But that's not the case with the hardware wallet. So some people have had the problem that they have actually imported their private keys from a paper wallet into a software wallet just to test. They sent a small amount to some other wallet. And then, of course, like the software wallet has actually generated a change address for them, as is customary for newer wallets. But then they just forgot about that. They were like, oh, yeah, all the crypto must be back in my paper wallet. Let's just delete the software wallet and put the paper wallet back into my safe. And that's how they lose their crypto. So just be really careful about that.
So Maria, we heard, I do have one bonus question for you. We heard about UTXO, BIP39, etching metal, and all of these other nice terms. Where do people actually go to learn how to get started with self-custody, if that sounds like too much?
Well, I don't know. It's basically like learning by doing. I don't know about you guys, but I basically learned by exposing myself to this stuff and trying, losing some crypto in the process, of course, but like that's just the nature of things. Like trying it out, reading all you can about it. Like there's a lot of interesting documentation. Maybe we can send around some links as well. And yeah, there's a lot of really useful YouTube documentaries that you can watch about this stuff.
There's lots of good stuff online. There's also lots of bad stuff online. So be mindful when you go and ask Google. There are Bitcoin user groups and crypto user groups in almost every city around the globe. And that's also a good way of getting started. It is usually random strangers there, but they're good-willed humans mostly and here to help. If anybody has other recommendations.
Start small.
Start small.
Definitely, yeah.
Absolutely.
Start small.
All right. Thank you very
Thanks.
much, Maria. We hand on over to Douglas.
Is there a clicker? Oh, thanks. Okay, so I'm Douglas. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Shift Crypto, where we make the BitBox hardware wallet, one type of hardware wallet. I was originally the inventor. Now I am stuck in doing business as a CEO, but happy to be here talking to you today. And so I'll try to run through this really quickly. I wanted to do a deep dive, 5 minutes, can't dive too deep. And if there's time, we can go a little bit more. So a number of years ago, I was invited to speak at a conference. The keynote speaker was the head of the CIA, former head of the CIA. And he said that there's two types of people in the world, those that have been hacked and those that have not yet been hacked. He was later corrected by every other speaker at the conference that there's two types of people in the world, those that know they've been hacked, those that don't know they've been hacked. And the take-home message of this conference was that if you have anything valuable on your computer or your mobile phone, it can be easily stolen by a thief who's motivated enough. This is an example of something that might be on your computer, your mobile phone, that's valuable. This is one of those seeds that Maria just talked about. Random bits of data, random numbers like this hold trillions and trillions in value. Well, maybe a little less than a trillion now. But that's pretty good motivation for a thief, I would say. And the issue is that security doesn't really scale. So imagine this seed, this random number is inside of this red balloon and you need to keep it safe. And so to keep it safe, you have to protect all of the surface of this red balloon. But an attacker, to get it, only needs to find one little area to poke it with a pin and pop it. And if you look at computers, mobile phones, they're actually designed to make this balloon even bigger through downloading apps through the App Store, your browser, web access, and so on and so on. And so the solution to this would be then try to make this balloon as small as possible. Maybe use something other than rubber. Something a bit stronger. And that's the whole point of hardware wallets. And so the concept is very simple. They generate the keys on board the device. They're single purpose miniature computers. And they never let these keys, these secrets, your coins touch the computer or a mobile phone where hackers or malware could see them. And so these are offline secrets, ideally no operating system. They have a miniature computer on it. A lot of them have additional secure chips for added security. And ideally they're open source. So you can, or someone can verify them, keep the manufacturers accountable. Purpose one, as I mentioned before, is to generate and store the keys. And this is done through random number generators on board the device. Randomness, also called entropy, is extremely important. If it's bad quality randomness, someone could guess the seed. And then if they can guess the seed, they can take all your coins. This has happened in the past with online wallets that use JavaScript in the browser, where there are some backdoors in there and people could predict what seeds were created and people lost a lot of money. They should be designed for physical protection. That means if the device gets stolen, your keys should still be protected. I think it's important to note that nothing is unhackable, but the point for hardware wallets, the goal of manufacturers is to make it hard for a thief to extract the secrets. By hard, that means it takes too much time or too much money to actually extract them. And as mentioned in the last slide, backup and recovery is very important. So this should also be all completely offline through the device itself. The second purpose is it should be usable. And so there's often a false or a dichotomy. Oh, sorry. There's often a saying that there's a trade-off between security and easy. But to me, I think that's a false dichotomy. And the goal of hardware wallet manufacturers is to make something that's both easy and secure. It has to be easy, otherwise people aren't going to use it. Self-custody is really important. If there's time, I'll talk about why I think that's important. And so easiness is something we really focus a lot on. And so the question before, how do you get started? You can buy a BitBox. sorry for that. And another key important factor is there should be a screen on board the device. You can see one here in the picture. And that's to, again, the idea, the threat model is you should just assume your computer or your mobile phone is hacked. And then all you need is a hardware wallet to be safe. And part of that is by verifying visually that what you think you're going to do, where you're going to send these Bitcoin to what address is actually what you really are doing. And so you can trust the screen on the device. And of course, there should be no automatic sign-in. So there should be some kind of button that you press to confirm. With that, thank you. Do I have more time?
Yep. 90 seconds.
90 seconds, great. And so this is a conference about self-custody. And so I think it's important to say why self-custody is important. Markus touched on it a little bit before, but just my opinion, if you look at Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, a key factor is they're decentralized. This is what allows all these great properties of like censorship resistance. Anyone in the world can participate without needing the permission of a government or a bank or anyone. They can just participate. However, we talked about numbers before. If most people are keeping their coins on exchanges, that kind of defeats the purpose. And so exchanges can act as gatekeepers. You have to trust them. It's basically an IOU. There's billions and billions of value lost every year to hacks of exchanges. Governments can tell exchanges to block this account because it looks suspicious. So you get censorship. You have to get permission from third parties and governments again, and you're just back into the fiat world. And so I think Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, they want to be held by you. And I think hardware wallets are often considered the best way to do that, the safest way. That I will end and open it up for questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Douglas. Very much on time. Let me stop the timer here. Any questions in the room?
Maybe a very trivial one. Said, okay, there's a screen, but why are these devices maybe not a little bit bigger and more convenient? Color screen. I mean, on the Nano Ledge, you have to type like it's a micro font, and it's not so user friendly from my perspective.
Yeah.
So the question is, why is a screen required? And a follow-on question: why aren't the devices bigger if the screen is so important?
Yeah, I think why are the screens so small was the gist of the question. Yeah, and so I think yeah, some of them are really small. I think when we made the device, part of the design aspect for us was to make it also discrete. So our device looks like a USB stick. If you unplug it, you don't see the screen. And so we thought that was important as another aspect of security. So if you just have it in your pocket, you have it in your desk, people don't suspect you have your million or 10 million in Bitcoin on it, for example. That said, the industry progresses. And so I think there's an example of a device here with a bigger screen. And this is something we're also considering. And so bigger screens, touch screens, things like that. To us, it's really a question of what the market is looking for.
There was a question from the gentleman in the blue shirt.
Okay, a friend of mine years ago for ETH, some company, hacked like a credit card where you could buy petrol in the US. They didn't attack in the software, but they just kind of heated it and measured it. You know, physical properties. They've used that. I'm not sure. I don't know the hardware stuff. So, is that, are those chips that you use kind of by design made tamper-proof on this attack?
Yeah. So I don't know if Adriano is going to get into this a bit more later.
I will not have time probably,
Okay.
but I want to discuss that. Yeah.
Yeah. So to keep it short, yes,
Can you
hardware
repeat
wallet.
the question, please, Douglas?
Oh, sorry. So the question was, in the past, you heard a story about people attacking like credit card chips, bank cards, and not using algorithms, but using like physical attack mechanisms. He's wondering if this is a consideration. And so, yes, definitely hardware wallet companies are aware of that. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them use what's called a secure element, which is designed specifically to prevent physical tampering like that. That said, the bank cards also use secure elements. And so oftentimes we'll put in redundancy. So have a bunch of different layers of security. So where if even one form of security mechanism is broken, there'll still be backups. So we have a blog on our website talking about our threat model and our security model. You can read more there. And I guess Ledger and others would have that also.
Yeah, if I can add to that. I mean, I'm not going to have time today to go through, but we have a dedicated team called Don John, who actually does exploits on a daily basis to figure out all of these cases. The case that you're talking about, I think, is when the microcontroller, which is the piece inside the hardware wallet, gets in some way put in a state that allows to extract files from it. And usually you do it power glitch. That's how you trigger that. But you know, they're very sophisticated attacks. Yeah, I can actually show you later. We have videos on it that goes through it. So we're looking at that.
We have one more question over there.
I have the opposite question of the gentleman before, which is about what's the easy for because if they can have these as community pushing cards and so on, how could you combine the fact that you want to carry it around, but at the same time you want to have a natural hardware wallet, which is basically a baseball magnet around you. How do you combine that? Sign a transaction without
So with NFTs, digital identity, people would like to take that along with them without having a full-on hardware device. How could that be done?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a great question. I think at least the BitBox and other hardware wallets, I think also are designed that you can carry it around, you can use it. If someone steals it, you're still safe. That said, of course, if you have your millions on it, probably don't want to do that. I don't know, just brainstorming, but maybe you need 2 hardware wallets.
There's also recent trends to go into RFID smart cards, where you store, for example, Lightning funds on a smart card to take along. I've not seen it for Ethereum or NFT addresses yet, but that's a form factor that everybody has with them, or had until a few years ago when wallets started to move into the phone, actually. Okay, one final question, please.
Do you see more people in percentage in relation to each other? Do you see more people doing self-custody or doing centralized custody? And what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think someone before asked how many, oh, sorry, should repeat the question. So the question was, in our experience, do we see more people doing self-custody or centralized custody? Is that right? Yeah. The numbers I mentioned before seem to show that a lot more people are doing using exchanges. Maybe in part that's due to not having big values. And then if you don't have a big value, having it on your phone or having an exchange, it's not that big of a deal. You're not going to lose too much. And so I think, yeah, it's like that right now, which is yeah, a little disappointing from our side. But what we see is that there's more and more awareness of the need for self-custody. And what we see is people are more so not saying, there's a big difference from 4 years ago. People are saying, not saying I don't need it. They say I need it, but they're more so saying, how do I get in? I'm afraid of making a mistake and things like that. And I think that's where our job again as companies is to try to solve that pain.
All right. If there are any more questions here, we are going to stay around for longer after the formal part of the event. There are going to be drinks and snacks to be had to mingle and ask questions and also exchange on thoughts and ideas within the audience and the speakers here. That's part of the reason that we do this. As a brief interlude, sorry, Patrick, so that we can have a physical get-together as the Cybersecurity Working Group instead of only just meeting remote in a Zoom call on a monthly basis, right? So today it's the working group meeting extended by everybody who's here. Welcome to today's working group meeting. And on the other hand, we are canceling tomorrow's video call because we're already meeting today. So more time for more questions at the end. And now, Patrick, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm Patrick Schramböck.
Share the screen with the guys.
Yeah, okay, I'm Patrick Schramböck and I'm working since 2017 in the crypto area, mostly in the security for financial institutes. But now I want to talk to the other side, the self-custody of the crypto, how to do it, because self-custody is still a major part of the crypto area, and many people have it maintain their cryptos with them. So I want to talk in 5 minutes about 4 topics. So it's a bit challenging. I need to be a bit fast, but luckily Maria talked a bit already about the different types of wallets. So I just start with and she mentioned a bit the loss. So loss is the simple situation when you cannot access your wallet anymore. May it be on the PC with MetaMask, may it be on the iPhone with your mobile device, which crashes. Maybe it be that the hardware wallet crashes, which can also happen. Sorry, and this can happen. That's a simple way. The most complicated way is so you have a fire in your house and it destroys all your equipment. So what can you do? And the best and continuous best solution for this at the moment is this BIP39, this mnemonic phrase, this recovery seed, as we call it, and it has been mentioned here. That's this 24 or 12 words, which give you access to the passphrase, or which give you access to the private key. Why is it important? Why is it good? Because it's easily to write down. You can remember it. You cannot do many errors, but you need to keep it offline. So it should not get burned when your house gets destroyed. It should not get destroyed also. So keep it offline somewhere else and make it not accessible to somebody else. This makes it a bit tricky. So one point is you encrypt it again, easiest way, and have it stored somewhere, but have it offline. So it makes the risk less. It doesn't reduce the risk, but it's maybe the easiest way to solve the storage of it. Another way is, what you need to consider is, if you use services, staking, you participate in parachains, you do NFTs and so, these are special setups. You use smart contracts. So note down this information, which wallets you use, which types you use, because after half a year, you might forget them. So it's also good to have an overview what you have invested where. So that's for the loss a bit, the basics which you can do. You can expand it, and it's always also to reduce the security. It's always also a good opportunity to use hardware wallets because they are more safe, they're more robust instead of a PC or instead of an iPhone. So for loss, that's the one thing. Then theft, that's a bit more complicated. theft is somebody steals your iPhone, somebody accesses your PC, and then it gets tricky because you don't know if what happens to your keys. Are the keys compromised or not? If they're not compromised, this device is lost, is gone, you recover the keys from your mnemonic phrase. Good. The other thing is now the keys get compromised. Now it gets, I have seen this in one situation when a person was doing a presentation, and in the background, you saw the hacker getting access to his PC and reading the file with the passphrase and constantly transferring the money off from his wallet during the session. Here you have a problem that the thief or attacker has the passphrase and can everywhere in the world create a transaction and send the money off to his personal wallet. So this is the point where you need to have some sort of emergency setup if you want to prepare for this. You have emergency setup ready. When you notice that the keys are compromised, you can transfer the assets to this emergency wallet setup, which is a total different wallet, total different setup, total different wallet, just empty and just ready if you need to transfer it. I won't do it if you have 1,000 francs on it, but if you have 1-2 millions, I think it's worth to think about it, to have it transfer, to have something ready to transfer it and something gets compromised. So next, more complicated level, inheritance. You suddenly, not hopefully, I don't wish it, but you can die, you get in an accident, you get injured, and you have severe damage, so you cannot handle your keys anymore, you forget it, or so it's a tricky part. So you need a way to securely hand over the assets to your successor, to the person you want to have access to it. Now, that's the first question, how to securely hand over these private keys or this information to the person you want. One point is, people talked about it, go to a lawyer, have it stored there, and the lawyer hands it out only to a certain person as described in the writing. Usage. Evidence bag, okay, need to push. Evidence bag, also possibility. But that's one part. Second part is you need the information note down. Which password, which keys, which wallets, which all the details you need. And then you need somebody who explains it to the person, because the person has normally no idea. Does your kids, does your wife know how to handle cryptos? No way. And last thing, don't forget about the local regulations. Regulations clearly say in case of theft, there is a clear regulation. You cannot hand it over around the corner, like I would say. There's some clear regulations. Be careful with this. That's for inheritance. Now kidnapping, the last and critical one. Consider you or your wife or your family gets kidnapped and threatened with death, with injury. I call it the $5 wrench attack, because people always have this picture in mind. You get the wrench for $5 and then you beat out the key out of the person. It happened. It really happened that people get kidnapped and forced to transfer the assets to the wallet of the attacker until the attacker sees. So what is happening here? The attacker knows you. The attacker knows how much coins you have. You cannot just hand it, sneak by. So you need to have preparation. Have the assets dispersed on different wallets, different setups. Don't make them visible. And have, secondly, having the amount, small amount ready, which you can hand out in case of a kidnapping. So since he does not know what is your total amount, you can have a chance, but don't play the rough, tough guy. Have a chance to hand it out and to get off with a small amount. I think that's in 7 minutes, and I have more to tell, but the time is sorry up. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm sure there must be questions. Please.
I have a question regarding MPC wallets. Where do you see them going in this decade? Since it's multi-party and it offers a higher level of security compared to conventional wallets in many ways.
So the question is about MPC wallets and where do we see them go compared to traditional secure element-based wallets? Who wants to take the question? Patrick, please.
I can take it. I'm recently working with working on the topic MPC. Yes, it's an alternative, but it's not fully usable yet in the normal way, because if you're the owner yourself, the owner of the key, it doesn't make sense to create two MPC key shares on your same person, on your same device. So it's usable for companies, but it's not for the personal individual usable.
Please.
Any suggestions on storing in a secure way the 24 word seeds?
So how to store the 24 word seed in a secure way,
Yes.
taking in account all of these 4 points.
Two. Huh?
Actually, I had a slide on that.
You have a slide on that. Okay, I hope I repeat everything, but one is the steel wallet, but that's reasonable to everyone. So you have a bank vault where you can store it. The other thing is I suggest to have some sort of secure encrypted part, which is stored offline, where you cannot access it.
Offline and offsite, I believe.
Offsite, offline, and encrypted.
But Patrick, I have a question for you. You said having a bank vault, so then you are kind of re-centralizing it to a bank, because how can you open a bank vault? Is there any way that somebody else than you open a bank vault? I know the bank itself or the regulator, the police. What's the regulation on bank vault, the physical bank vault?
From my knowledge, the regulation on physical bank vault is this, that the banks are handling the vault in your name. And if the regulator comes with, or the judge comes with a claim, or they say, I don't know, this special form, which demands opening this vault, then there is a chance then that they can get access to it. So there is a way to open it, but not easy.
And almost the same question, you talk about lawyers for inheritance. So same question for lawyers. How can you make sure that you are not re-centralizing and exposing it to some risk?
The risk to reduce the risk of not exposing is the contrary question of where do you trust most? You trust a person on the street, you don't trust that much. A person in a bank, you have more trust. A lawyer, you also have a certain trust. So it's a question on how much trust you give to it. You should not give full trust to the person, otherwise you fully rely on the person. That's also there are services in the internet which offer custody of backups or do backup services, and also exchange which offers service custody of your coins, but they're only to a certain extent trustable. They can go bankrupt, they can run away with the money. That's a risk.
So Jérôme is great at asking trick questions, because of course we're here about trustless self-custody, and then we're bringing backups to trusted parties. How do we fix this?
There's only one way, but I wouldn't advise to anyone to try that, which is to create a sentence out of the mnemonic seed and memorize it. Then nobody will ever have access to that.
That's the inheritance problem.
But for example, Ledger Nano, you provide the 24 words. We can't choose the words ourselves, the Ledger Nano.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but there is a way to create a sentence. Just it's not advisable to do that.
Okay.
Because if you hit your head, you get hit by a bus or.
The way is maybe to combine different security mechanisms, and the more you combine, the less risk you have, but the more complex it gets. So it's using reducing the usability heavily.
Between people that have to come together.
That's the Shamir secret or MPC technology. But if you want to do self-custody on your own, it's not working.
Even then, splitting the secret in part between multiple different parties is part of an effective mechanism. Also having multi-sig on the blockchain level for those blockchains that support it is an effective way of doing this. Then secrets are split in the full strengths, in full storage, even with cold wallets. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add something.
Please.
I was dying to say something. Yeah, so there was a question about like how do you prevent like the re-centralization of like a decentralized system, right? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to decentralize stuff. So then it's ironic that we're taking it back to a lawyer. But like for some things like inheritance, like there is no other way, right? Because you can't go to your like dad or mom and explain them exactly how crypto works and they understand exactly how we do. So you do need certain instructions that, well, you need to be sure that these instructions reach your loved ones and your next of kin, right? And the way that you make sure that this happens is that you have, for example, a safe deposit vault, or you have a notary, and they know whom to contact just in case you die. Like that's one of the best solutions on the whole inheritance problems. Like you write a letter to your loved ones, your family, with instructions how to use these hardware wallets. You have like instructions of where the passphrase is, what the PIN is, and how to use these mnemonic phrases that we were talking about.
One quick point, if I can jump in. It also depends on the attack surface for your specific case and what you're trying to protect from, right? Are you trying to protect from, I don't know, the small guy that wants to rob you? Are you trying to protect from a state? Are you trying to protect, like, what is the level of threat that you're going against? Then based on that, you can assess what you need to do. So it's not like I'm actually about to talk about this, so maybe I'm jumping the gun a bit, but it depends what is your level of risk, right? Who is after you, right? Or what you think is after you. You can get really paranoid very quickly.
Yeah.
So
let's hold that thought for a moment until you speak.
Yeah.
Adriano, in a few minutes, let me take a final question from the audience, and then we have another round at the end. Is there somebody in the room?
Also, I have some question from online, because I think it's good that we take a question from the live stream at a few. So we have a question from Oktay Ochaoglu. So if I do not spell it your name right. So the question is, are there insurance companies in Switzerland which offer refund or replacement in case you lose the keys or get it stolen? So insurance. Good question, by the way.
Very good.
Very good question. Does anybody know?
I
wouldn't
just
know of anything.
I would expect so, but I don't know
I
any
just have
specific
partial
name, but I'm pretty sure there is. I don't know.
Yeah, Helvetia used to have that when I was working for Crypto Storage, which is part of the crypto finance company. Like we were investigating like different companies that would offer that. And like Helvetia did have some form of cybersecurity-esque insurance that partly covered, but it was only up to like 40 million or something, which of course makes sense for us.
Yeah.
For the company, yeah, not for individuals, but for company.
I think there's a custody insurance for crypto custody service providers or bigger ones. And there's the normal household insurance, which is not covering it. There are some insurance companies offering for private persons, how is it, not crypto, but cyber security, cyber insurance, but crypto insurance I have not seen for private persons. That's at the moment my information.
All right, let's wrap this up for a moment. We'll get back to a more open round of questions at the end. I would also have loved to speak about social recovery wallets here, but we're not going to do this. We could speak about this at the end. Adriano.
Hello. Let's start by saying good evening, everyone. Thanks, Markus, for the invite, and all the panelists. You did a great job. And I think you also briefly touched on some of the points that I wanted to talk about. Can I go? All right, I'll introduce myself. Adriano Bertini. I am strategy lead at Ledger and analyst. So we work in multiple spaces, from custody to staking to the DApp offering to the next product that is going to come up. So we are fully booked with many different products. I'm very interested to talk to you about later after the presentation. So today I'm going to talk to you about the most common and historical hack. Okay, Great. Okay, according to Crystal Blockchain, about 14.6 billion has been lost due to hack since 2011. This is 2% of the total cryptocurrency market as of today. So just think about that number, right? And I think the main fundamental problem, and I think is actually an industry problem, that a lot of people in the industry think of security as a fixed parameters. Is my wallet, my system secure or unsecure? And this is fundamentally wrong, because security is not a fixed parameter, is actually a variable, and is based on two main parameters. How much resources the attacker is willing to execute on you, and the second, what is the price? What is the amount of value that he can extract from you? So if you think in that way, then answering the gentleman's point before, you can think about a strategy based on your level of risk, right? And that changes because the amount that you have in custody changes as the price of that amount change in the market. So you have to think in that way. So let's talk about some of these hacks. I'm going to start and focus on human error because those are the most common. Because the hackers know that human error are more common than machine errors, so they focus on that. I'm going to start from exit scam. Probably many of you are familiar with that. I'm going to talk about that because a lot of business in the industry still didn't understand that. So if you have a single key that controls the entirety of the assets, or even if you have a multi-sig where you have multiple signatures to execute a transaction, if you give it to one or two people, you are exposed to these people. So no matter how good is the hardware, how good is the software, if these people are gone, disappear, die, your funds are gone. So what we suggest is to look for governance software. And that's what we offer at Ledger Enterprise. Sorry, Markus. That's what you need if you have a business that wants to do self-custody. So that's the first attack vector. Then going to the next one, medium to technical expertise required in this case. So the first one we see was low level of expertise required to execute. The second is medium. I'm going to present two. The first one where the user is blindsided. What does it mean? He thinks he's interacting with an application, a software wallet application. Instead, he's with the legitimate one. Instead, he's interacting with the malicious one. And the first one I want to bring to you is fake browser. Fake browser extension, which was very common in 2020, 2021. We saw about 49 Google extensions of legitimate software wallet being malicious. And the way the attacker executed this was very clever. They basically use Google accounts, probably with bots, so they have multiple Google accounts, and start to upvote those extensions. In addition to that, they buy Google ads. So when you were searching for the extension, it was the first result on Google. And guess what? When you see the first result, you think is legitimate. So people will download. The first thing he will ask you is the mnemonic seed, which you should never share with anybody. As you enter it, the malware will execute an HTTP post request back to the backend server of the malicious actor, and your funds were gone. So that's blindsiding. The second I want to bring to you is actually where the user create an opening for the attacker, and I want to focus in cloud breaches type of attack. So those, according to Cyberblade, are the most common crypto thefts, and you might also think about why is that, right? So you have cloud services and you have multiple devices, and each device is connecting to the cloud service. So if one of these devices is compromised, and there are ways to do that, which I can explain you later, how they work, because I don't have much time. I have Markus here checking all the time. But if you have in this device even one file that is a malware, that file could be uploaded into the cloud and back synchronized to all the other devices. So let's talk about some of these malware. I mean, Maria already touched upon one, which is keyloggers. So everything that you type, if you have a malicious malware like a keylogger on your system, what does it mean on your device? It means that everything that you type is actually logged and sent back to the malicious attacker. So it could be your cloud password, it could be your email password, it could be your PIN. And if it's cloud, then email, then they can get even more access and intrude further into your device. The second I wanted to talk to you about is screen capture malware. The way this malware works, you take a screenshot with a certain frequency of your screen, of your monitor. And when you set up a wallet for the first time, almost every wallet solution give you the mnemonic seed on the screen. So that screen will be captured, will go to the backend of the malicious actor, and your seed and your wallet funds are gone because you will have full access. The third one is crypto shuffler, which is kind of interesting and a little bit more sophisticated. So the way crypto shuffler works, every time you copy an address, like a Bitcoin address or an ETH address, you will able to recognize that this is an address, and it will flip that to the attacker address. So you paste it into your recipient address on your wallet solution, and when you click send, you send to the attacker. So that's a very clever way to steal your funds. Lastly, there are highly technical hack that generate their machine errors. There could be software exploits, which I mentioned briefly, like side channel attack, or hardware like power glitches on the microcontroller. We have a dedicated team, a ledger called the Donjon team that works day and night, actually executing on the devices of our devices or competitor devices, these exploits to understand how they work and making sure that we have a solution for those. So I'm very happy to show you after during the breakout how those work. We have it recorded. So if you're interested, happy to show you. I want to summarize and close with 3 points. The first one, never, ever, ever share your mnemonic seed with nobody, like anybody. There is no reason to do that. That's what we always advise also our client. Second, always check the URL of the website of the software wallet application that you want to download. Because if the URL is not correct, obviously something is not right. And check the extension that you are downloading. Lastly, if you have a business that wants to do self-custody, you need a governance software to manage who can create a transaction, who can approve the transaction. You have to have governance. Otherwise, you will fall for Axis scam. And we have Ledger Enterprise that can do that quite well. I'm happy to talk to you about that. That's it. And now I'm only opening up for any questions you guys might have.
I couldn't do it any better.
Oh, thank you.
But the asking for questions, of course, I mean.
Maybe I'll scrap the questions.
You talk about like vanity generators and the recent hack around witch reviews and how the generation of addresses and private keys is also violating the security.
Sorry, I partially understand what you're saying.
So there was a recent hack where a vanity address generator was used, and do you know it was also used to hack Wintermute to the tune of what is about 30 million or so? 160, okay.
So what's the question? How do they pull it up?
Yeah.
So yeah, how does that like go into consideration when generating like a new address? What's the importance there? Is it like important to choose a certain service that is securing generating that, or?
Yeah. So the problem that you are referring to is the randomness when you are when you're generating a new address, and so it depends on the source of entropy that you utilize to generate that. I don't know all the specific. I didn't get the time to go through the specific of that hack, but I would say that probably the source of entropy was either not right, or there was some exploit that generate addresses that were easily guessable. I guess I don't know the specific of that attack.
In this case, it was exactly source of randomness.
The source of entropy.
32 bits only.
Okay.
Limited. And therefore easy for anybody else out there to guess which addresses were created, to repeat the process that this tool did for its users, to repeat that offline or online, and then look at which of these addresses that they found separately were already used by users of the tool, and then use the private key that they found to steal the assets. Going back to, it's been mentioned a couple times, use a device that provides very high randomness and that you trust that it provides high randomness, such as a hardware wallet.
Some people like to do with dice. Seriously, that's how crazy it can get. Any other questions?
I have a question from the online audience. So in the past weeks, we saw a warning from MetaMask to deactivate the iCloud backup function for that app in order to prevent a hack or steal your data. How could we solve this issue if you know this issue?
That's actually one of the things that we were discussing with Markus. I do not see, honestly, I mean, it's going to be a bad answer, I guess, I do not see any easy way to prevent issues if you are sharing any file that is part of your wallet solution to a cloud service, because the attack surface is so wide that I mean, maybe Douglas, maybe you know a better way, but I would highly discourage any wallet that use cloud solution. I mean, we are paranoid at Ledger for sure. So we don't like cloud solution. I know that there are some players in the market that advise to use that and sell that. We think that the attack surface, as I say, is too wide, and it becomes quite difficult to make sure that every file is not corrupted or not malicious, and we cannot guess how the file can evolve once it's inside the device. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but you want to add anything? That's perfect.
All right, I see one more question in the end.
You were talking about self-custody for businesses. Would you mind sharing a few more words on what to watch out for when doing that as a business?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how to approach self-custody as a business?
Yeah, so I think, as I say, and not many of our, not many of the people in the space that run business think about this, but it should be the level of threat that you are facing, the first point that you need to think about. And second, you need to think about how your business governance should work. I think those are the 2 points that are important. And the first one, I think our solution generally works with the majority of our clients. I mean, some clients have specific need of having hardware on site. Some other have specific need, but generally that covers it. The second, I think, is the governance. That's the main point. Like, who has access to what at any given point? Who can take specific action at any given point? And the governance software we have has a very nice and easy to use and easy to update segregation of duty module, let's say. So certain people can only create transactions, certain other people can only approve transaction. We have an administrator or more administrator that can do certain things. So you are breaking down the chain of control on the self-custody solution. And in that way, you reduce the risk of being exposed. I think that's the key for business. And that's why we've been focusing a lot on that. That's actually the premise of Ledger Enterprise. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have a super admin at Ledger Enterprise?
A super admin? Not that I know, no. What you want to elaborate on that? Maybe? Yeah, I know what a super, like what do you specifically like? What? No, we don't have that. Absolutely not. The person in control of the assets is the client, because he owns the key.
Okay. Any more questions here?
Yeah, maybe you seem to be quite against multisig. As I understood, somebody knows CASA, the service that is offered by Jamson Lopp, is CTO, and is well known in the Bitcoin space. He will be a speaker at Plan B Lugano next month. So they provide an interesting super multisig up to 6 plus. So what do you think about this service? It's only for Bitcoin, but it looks interesting. So we are not here to promote anything, but
so maybe I was too fast during my talk, but I'm absolutely pro multisig, like the exact opposite. So well, Ledger does multisig. I support multisig. Multisig has been around for years and years. I am not as strong on MPC actually, but that's a different discussion. And I'm familiar with CASA solution, and I think the great things about CASA solution is the inheritance plan. I think that's very interesting, because I don't think we touch upon today, but one of the biggest problem is if I get hit by a bus, right? How the other family, friends get access to the funds. So I think CASA is a pretty good solution on that. And we're looking even within Ledger for solution to that problem.
Yeah, but their inheritance planning is only for US and Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
unfortunately.
the limit.
But yeah, I'm a great fan of that solution.
Okay.
Do we have more questions for Adriano specifically before we open up the round for questions for everybody?
Sorry if I take too much time.
Anything online that you see for Adriano specifically?
A lot of, but some of them I don't understand. Too complicated. But you go on. Maybe I ask her later.
All right.
Maybe
so
it's good that
we open the round for any questions. We'll continue for a few more minutes. Not in the room. Then what's popular online, Jérôme?
Okay, so maybe I will read the question of Francesco Mocchi Sismondi. So from one of the opening statements, if we haven't been hacked, we should expect to be. Then where do you see the optimal security level for crypto to really disrupt traditional finance? What do you expect custody will look like in 5 years from now? Francesco from online. Thank you, Francesco.
All right. I'd like to ask Douglas to start answering.
So, sorry, could you repeat the question?
The question from Francesco is, where do you see the optimal security level for crypto to really disrupt traditional finance, and where do you see maybe custody in 5 years from now?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer because things change so fast in the space. We're still betting on self-custody as the solution, like with hardware wallets and things like that. Again, just if you look at all of the security threats out there, as a number of us have talked about now, it seems like the solution is really to decentralize custody. So avoid central honeypots where you have a single person who can steal stuff. And that really comes down to people being comfortable holding their own keys. And so maybe there's something other than hardware wallets, but to me, hardware wallets is a solution. I don't think it's going to go away. Maybe it'll become easier. Maybe it'll be some different form factor, things like that. But I think that's going in that direction. But maybe someone else can also offer their opinion on where they see the space going in 5 years.
Yeah, maybe a little addendum. Like we were talking a lot about hardware wallets, but I mean, in general, you can combine hardware wallets with different wallets. Like for example, if you use like a mobile wallet for like your small amounts that you use day to day to like pay people back when they invited you for coffee or something like that. So we can combine it all the time to give yourself more flexibility. So you're thinking more like a checking account and a saving account. So for example, checking would be your mobile and a saving would be your hardware device.
Also to add my 2 thoughts to this, I think we're on a journey. We are now on the technology side. We have it done. We can do it cryptographically secure, but we don't have solved the financial aspect yet. So it's not fully accepted in all countries as a payment method. It's not fully secured as from the regulatory perspective. So all the AML stuff, it's still a problem, which hinders us to accept it as a standard mechanism for payments. And this is one big problem. And the other one is that it needs more acceptance in the world. So we still have many people who are not familiar with the technology and don't want to get familiar with the technology. Not everybody wants to handle a hardware wallet or a mobile iPhone. So they want to go to bank, they want to go service provider and have it there securely stored and usable every time, everywhere. So that's the basic functionality of money is the fungibility, the availability, and then some other things. And this must be solved and available to make it really worldwide usable.
I have a very good question from Mohit Pandey, who asks, what about mapping mnemonics or private keys to fingertips or bio-authentication?
I can take that.
Can I take this?
Oh, yeah,
Just a minute, please. Can we switch back to the first slide with the overview?
Maybe we don't need any slides so that we have.
Okay. We could share this.
I think for online audience, maybe it's better. Okay.
All right.
So mnemonics, bio connecting.
Do you want us to take that? I thought. Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So what was the question again? Mnemonic.
Yeah, I repeat the question of Mohit. Pandi, what about mapping mnemonics or private keys to fingertips or any bio authentication?
Yeah, that's been around for quite a while. The problem with any bio is that as a single signature, like it's unique signature. If that gets hacked or compromised, or somebody's able, you have the iWatch, you have you cannot think of the multiple ways your bio can be compromised. Once it's compromised, it's game over. So it's not very, I would say, scalable or usable in the long run.
Yeah,
that would be my challenge.
I agree. I'd just add, the way to think of it is biometrics, like fingerprints, iris scan, stuff like that is, in our words, more like a login rather than a password. And for exactly these reasons, there's only one of them. Someone cuts your finger off, it's gone. There's been in the news, I think some German politician was giving a talk, and someone with a super powered camera at the back of the audience took their picture and recreated their iris scan. And so you leave your fingerprints everywhere, right? So I highly recommend not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have a question here.
What about the gene sequence?
What about gene sequence?
It's like your DNA. I guess you leave that lots of places also.
Yeah,
So everywhere. So I wouldn't recommend that either.
Bio doesn't work. Next.
All right. Remember,
Just one more question.
yeah, I'll get to the question. Remember that we have a BitBox raffle at the end. So we're going to get there soon. We're also speaking about hardware devices for most of the event, but we didn't actually really show a hardware device. I don't know. I think, Adriano, you have a device, and Maria, you mentioned that you have a device. Maybe we can hold these up and show them a little bit. And where is the BitBox that we're speaking about all the time? Chad, do you have it?
It's hiding. It's very discreet.
Oh, nice. So really small.
But by the way, the nano also is pretty small,
Yeah.
because I agree that should be discreet, but it depends on the use case. So
Yeah. So we have a couple of treasures over there.
So,
This is a BitBox, and that's
Ledger.
enterprise
Yep.
ledger.
at the moment, there are more than 10 hardware wallets available on the market. So well-known, you see here the well-known ones, and there are different sizes and different functionalities or capabilities.
Yeah, we were talking about the screens, and you can see the massive screen over there, the slightly tinier one here, and the very tiny one here. So you can see the evolution as well.
So can I quickly comment on why? So we introduced clear signing. So not only your transaction, but also your smart contract, the contract details are approved on this device. So if you want to look at the contract details, you want to make sure you can see the contract details very clearly before you sign. So that's why we decide to keep the screen bigger.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to the question that we had. Please.
I was just curious, what's making you think to get a much wider usage and adoption of hardware wallets? Because if you look just 2FA, it's kind of, many people don't use it. If they use it in software, let alone YubiKeys. Most people don't know what YubiKey.
Yeah.
What do you think is missing for
What's missing for the wider adoption of hardware
cents
wallets?
really quickly? I think we need to do a better job in UX and UI. We cannot pretend that everybody understands, cryptography and, and CLI.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, it's easy. So again, people shouldn't be afraid to do self-custody, shouldn't be afraid to do a hardware wallet. It should be easy to do. And that's our goal as a company. And I think the second part is education. So just understanding the need, because the crypto world is very, very different than the fiat world, where gone is gone. So whoever has the keys can take the coins. Whereas in the fiat world, you do have delays between when you send a wire transfer. You can reverse transactions. Credit cards, you can reverse transactions after 6 months. And so if someone steals something, there are some ways to come back. And insurance also, I think, is a big role. Maybe in the future, if there is insurance for personal cryptocurrency holdings, there might be less fear, more adoption also. But yeah, it's a good question. Thanks.
Yeah. I think that's also a point of how much it costs, because some devices cost 100, 200 bucks. And the other thing is the usability. People don't very easy way. They don't want to enter a PIN on a different device. They are more used to the easy way of fingerprint touch ID on the mobile device. And so that's why it's still a bit a challenge to convince the people to use it. But it's definitely worth, because these hardware devices are much more secure than the other software.
Good. I see there's another question here in the room, and we're going to start to wrap up with 2 final questions. So the one in the room, please.
Okay, but more security if I use a Linux system than an Apple or a Microsoft system?
Are Linux systems more secure than Apple or Windows? And I assume that's on a computer or laptop as opposed to a dedicated hardware wallet. Desktop. Who would like to take this?
I can, if you so I'm not sure if you're gonna like my answer, but I don't think you should assume security. So Linux has certain property that make it less difficult to attack, but we know already that there are attack surfaces on Linux as well. Compared to Microsoft Windows, I would say marginally better, probably better. But I'm afraid to tell you that, because then you assume security. If you want security at the operating system level, then you have to go into different type of program that segregate your environment in different, let's say, boxes, and in different boxes you do different things. And we can talk during the break what those are. But you do not assume that one OS is bulletproof. But yeah, I would say Linux, I think it's better comparatively.
Okay, and do we have another question from the online audience? You are the judge on which one?
Yeah, the last one by Georg Lanzinger. So I see plenty of question about inheritance. It seems to be the hot topic. So do you see any need in Shamir secret as a solution for inheritance?
Good question. So if Shamir secret is a method to use in inheritance, it can be, but it needs to be applied correctly, because if you have, you need several people, it would work if you have several people, which then needs to bring their keys together to get access to the assets. So it would work. If you have just one person you want to hand it over, it's not working. So it depends how you set it up, but I think definitely it would be a method to do it.
So maybe in a few words, what is Shamir secret sharing?
Shamir secret sharing is that you split a private key into multiple parts and define that, for instance, if you split it in 5 parts, that 3 people must bring their parts together to recreate the full key. And this you can create quite flexible. You can make 2 out of 10, you can 3 out of 5. That's Shamir secret. It allows to recover the key by this method.
And the additional benefit is that each of the parts can have the same strengths, cryptographic strengths, as the original private key. Yes. So it cannot easily be guessed, which is the case if you hand 5 people 5 parts of a seed. Correct. They each have 3 words, and it's a much reduced security.
Some people do that.
Yeah.
They break the seeds and say, okay, now I'm more secure. You're actually, I think, doubling I mean, halving the level of security, and somebody run the math. Like, you're much, much less secure than if you keep it together. The seed one.
So,
sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Just like, again, the point about having everyone on board with this thing, because if people are supposed to be involved in any scheme that you have, no matter if it's Shamir, if it's multi-sig or whatever, you have to make sure that they're on board and they know their responsibility, because you can't just like expect them to pop up and understand how to use these things. So it's like really training, talking to them, having a conversation, maybe involving a third party as well, or having a bigger quorum than you actually need.
that's going back to the question that people need to be informed and know how to handle it. If you handle it to your relatives and they don't know how to do it, it's a bit tricky. It won't work.
All right, I hear that classes are being prepared, so soon we're going to be ready.
Yeah.
I do have a final question, which is, we've heard a lot of things, how complicated custody, self-custody is, how many things you need to consider about inheritance, loss, and hackers, and how easy it is to be hacked. Why do you still do self-custody, and how do you explain to your family that you have put a potentially significant amount of assets into a custody solution that is so easy to be hacked? Douglas would like to need the mic.
Yeah, so I think if you talk to hardware wallet guys, we like to talk about attacks and hacks and things like that. But in general, if you compare hardware wallets to other forms, like the security is so like a completely different level. And then I would also say, you get the question of, okay, I'm just going to trust this exchange. And so there's, the exchange could have absolute perfect security, but because of the human factor, your funds are still at risk with exit scams and key person issues. But ignore that. How do you log into your exchange?
Username, password.
Username and password that maybe you're storing on your mobile phone. And so it comes down to the same thing. You need to keep these things really secure. You can't lose this. And Coinbase, for example, has quite a bit of money that's been lost through SIM swaps, where people figure out ways to hack someone's phone. And so, what's the best solution? Yeah, you have to figure out kind of all these different aspects. And again, with cryptocurrency, gone is gone. So the security level, it needs to be a step higher than what you're normally used to, and the mindset needs to shift a little bit.
Is the question also why they need to do it, right? Markus, is that?
Let's go to the why and wrap up with the why.
I think it will be very clear if you talk with your grandmother why. So it's been through the war, right? So people that have been into a very difficult situation and they need to move money, and everything will be compromised very easily. Being able to memorize few words and being able to transport it across land, I think that's a pretty important use case. And you've seen recently in Ukraine, people fleeing with their mnemonic seed, just thinking in their brain, memorizing it. You wouldn't be able to do it any other way. There was no banks, there was nothing. So what happens if there is a situation where you need to quickly carry out large sum of money digitally? How do you do that?
Just to add one sentence, I think the basic idea of crypto was to have the option for each person to participate and to do transaction and payments without banks, without the need of service or institutions. And that was the basic idea. And from this, the whole idea emerged to create the value, or which created the value and the response and the interest in this, in this crypto. And that's why it's still, this idea is still here. People still think of having an independent payment system where they can decide to whom they pay the money without going to the bank. That's why self-custody is the main driver of the crypto, and brought a lot of push forward because it's available to everybody. You need to think about how many people in the world don't have a banking account, and they would be now able to get access via this method to do transactions without need of a bank.
Yeah, maybe closing word. It's not actually that hard to do crypto, like self-custody crypto, as we just mentioned. Like begin small and start dabbling in it, and begin to understand like what a seed phrase is, what private public keys is, and suddenly you find that it's not that hard at all to do self-custody.
Write the 24 words, put it in a safe place, and remember your PIN. I mean,
yeah,
that's the bottom line.
and try it. Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're wrapping up with a BitBox. Again, do we have a wrapped BitBox to give away that I can hold up for people to see?
Seal for sure. There's 2 different kinds, so the winner gets to choose which one.
All right, let me hold them up.
Bitcoin only edition for the maxis, and then
All right, there is a Bitcoin only edition and another one that has a few more coins. And the question who we have here is actually going back to the history of the BitBox. How long ago, how many years ago was the BitBox created? This month, how many years ago? The first one to get it correctly gets to choose one of these BitBoxes. Please.
4, 5.
Which one? No.
8.
No.
7.
Yes. How did you know?
I guess they were once in the Generali premises in Adnovum, if I remember correctly, but it was pure guess. Coincidence.
October 20, what was it? 15. You have something to tell about the story of how the BitBox was conceived in October 2015?
Sure, if there's time. Yeah, I guess the BitBox business officially started in October 2015 with the founding of a company. I did work on it a bit before then, so maybe the guy who voted 8 could get a BitBox too. But yeah, it started in my spare time, and the idea of hardware wallets existed, but none of them were actually physically made yet. And at that time, there's a lot of scams. At that time in hardware, so like in mining, there'd be a lot of scams where you'd pool a bunch of money to order some mining equipment to mine Bitcoin to make money. But then that disappears. It's just a scam. There's no hardware there to get delivered to you, and they just steal your money. So I didn't think that hardware wallets were going to come. You know, it was an open question. I got into the space, was really interested, and so I had some idea of the security. It took me 2 months, or not 2 months, 2 weeks until I actually felt comfortable holding my own coins, because I knew some of the security risks. It's like, this doesn't work. And so I just decided in my spare time to make a hardware wallet. Went to meetups. Someone mentioned, how do you get in? Go to meetups, they're really great. Met Jonas Schnelli, co-founded a company with him. Jonas is actually one of the most well-known people in the Bitcoin space. He was a core maintainer. So one of the few people with the key rights to change the Bitcoin core code base. And there's other people like Jonas, a lot of people in Switzerland like that go to meetups. And people here also, a lot of important people trying to advance the space. Yeah, and that's how it all started and kind of snowballed from there.
All right, thank you very much. And congratulations on your new BitBox. You've learned a lot what not to do, some things what to do. And with this, I'd like to welcome Jérôme back on stage.
And then, yeah, it's almost over. I really love this this event. It was so interesting. So many questions from the public here, from online. And that's really what we want to do with the Crypto Valley Association, this kind of a hybrid event. Keep in mind, everybody in this association is a volunteer. The chairs, the active members, the board members. So everything is allowed by you, our individual members, corporate members, via your membership. So we are totally relying on the financing of our member. of course of the company that support us. So that's it for tonight. Adnovum will invite you to share this aperitif together. And so thank you for the online audience, and sorry, and thank you for everybody. You can come and have the apero together. Thank you.